Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a Washington, D.C. area regional, a virtual experience. This has been a great event so far. Thank you to all our exhibitors for participating in our trade show
We're in the Zoom room.
and all of you for taking out your time with your busy schedule. I am Sandeep Patel, Washington, D.C. area regional director. I'm honored to serve as your regional director. It's been a privilege to work on your behalf and to advocate for the initiatives and issues AAHOA is constantly working on. I would like to thank our sponsor, Chase and Red Lion Hotel Corporation. Their support means so much for our association, and we are grateful for their partnership. Now, a brief message from our sponsors.
All right, we have breaking news now. World Health Organization has just declared coronavirus a pandemic at this point.
Thank you, Chase and RLH Corporation. Your involvement is a key to AAHOA's success. Our officers, our board, and our ambassadors are all volunteers. I would like to recognize our Washington, D.C. area regional ambassador. They work tirelessly to support AAHOA in our region. Asmita Patel, Deepak Patel, Kirtan Patel, Manan Shah, Neil Raj Chudasama, Paul Prasant Patel, Praveen Kotadia, Preeti Patel, Purnima Patel, Roshan Patel, Tejas B. Patel. I would also like to recognize Washington, D.C. area 2019 Premier Ambassador, Manan Shah. He went above and beyond in his service to AAHOA and to our national hoteliers, and we are grateful for his service. Thank you to all ambassadors and for their all support in our region. Now let's take a moment to review our regional performance. As you can see, Washington, D.C. area has 680 paid members, 468 lifetime members. I urge everyone in your network to please join or renew your AAHOA membership. Hoteliers are struggling right now, and we need to rely on each other more than ever. If you have a friend or a family member who is not yet a AAHOA member, help them out. Encourage them to become a member today and take advantage of all the AAHOA's resources we have to offer. As an AAHOA membership, it's free for all the Red Lion Hotel Corporation and G6 franchise. Also, if you're a fellow hotelier in Wyndham franchise who has never been a AAHOA member, you are still eligible for free membership. This year, our region has raised $11,035 for AAHOA PAC. If you have not yet donated to our PAC, you can do it right now securely through AAHOA.com or here at our region visit on your information desk. Your support is greatly appreciated. Here are some of those who have donated to our AAHOA PAC, and we are grateful for your support. Let's look at the slide for that. AAHOA support candidates who support our small business and more specifically hotelier. Here are the candidates that AAHOA PAC is supporting in our region. We work best when we work together, and I'm proud of what we accomplished, especially in this phase of pandemic. I'm grateful for your support and your participation, especially all of you who have updated property data through myahoa.com. When you update your property information, it helps us help you, such as when we're talking with brands, vendors, and your elected officials. It helps us paint a more complete picture on your influence as a job creator and a leader in business and in your community. We also need your email and cell phone number. And be sure to opt to receive the latest news, updates, and special deals. Please take a few minutes today. Update your property information through myahoa.com and help us better advocate for you and best for communicate with you. We have several important events coming up, including additional regionals. Log into ahoa.com every day, find a new to attend, and even virtually. We add new ones every day. I'm looking forward to a great year. In few moments, we are going to update from AAHOA's Women Hotelier and Young Professional Hotelier, brought to you by Marriott. Now, please welcome Adam Surrier, Senior Vice President, Lodging Development, Marriott Select Brands, for a message on behalf of Marriott.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad I'm able to join with you virtually. Sorry, you can't be in person. I know we're all in our homes and offices attending this great AAHOA event, but most importantly, we are together. Again, my name is Adam Scherer, Senior Vice President, Marriott Select Brand Development for the Eastern region. We are long-term supporters of AAHOA, so we're excited to continue our support of AAHOA and its mission. We think that there's a significant amount of connection between Marriott and its AAHOA members. Marriott started as a family business close to 100 years ago. We actually were a franchisee of the A&W root beer system. We very much understand what it means to be in your shoes in terms of taking on the risk of the family enterprise to go for success and to continue to grow your own businesses. So we are, again, feel very much in alignment with all of you. Do want to say we are open for business. We are continuing to look to grow with all of you. All of you have been so critical to our success. Many of you serve integral parts to our enterprise and serve as leaders within our franchise advisory board systems. So we thank you for that level of engagement. We do this together ultimately in the hotel business. Your success becomes our success, and we are driven every day to make sure that you meet your financial and growth objectives. So again, just want to say a thank you. Hope you're enjoying all the content. Most importantly, let me say, I know we're living in an unprecedented time. So hopefully, number one, that your families are safe, are healthy. Your businesses are navigating and weathering what is going on from a COVID perspective. We're thinking about all of you. We'll continue to work with you and your businesses to be successful. You can see contact information on the screen for Emily Rotolo, who supports our development organization. If you do have any interest or need help for whatever the reasons, whether it's on the development side or on our franchise side, we are here to help you and support you. Please contact Emily. We will connect you to the right person. And again, enjoy the rest of the day and look forward to seeing you in person, hopefully sometime soon.
Thank you, Adam. Now, please join me welcoming Lena Patel, Female Eastern Division, for update on a women's hotelier.
Hello, women hoteliers. At our San Diego convention, we took a moment to celebrate ways we can learn from one another, inspire one another, and set ourselves up for a year of progress and success in our businesses. Women, especially the women of AAHOA, have a history of building up one another. But women don't just help women. We speak up in support of hotel owners across America. Women hoteliers met with members of Congress, legislative staff, state representatives during the Legislative Action Summit and Capitol Hill Days in states across the country in order to share in real terms how policies affect small business owners. We fundraise for the AAHOA PAC because we understand the importance of making sure Congress is made up of pro-business leaders who understand our industry. And in the midst of all of this, we continue to give back. We pay it forward. We help the next generation of hotel owners. We prepared holiday care packages for children in foster care, and we gathered much needed supplies for women in shelters. I think you'll all agree with me that this strange season has inspired us all to stop and think about what's really important and the kinds of leaders we want to be. I also want to tell you about the Women Hoteliers Focus. This group is dedicated to helping advance women professionals in hospitality industry. If you want to become more involved, to build your network, connect with the industry leaders, and grow, I encourage you to join us. Until business is back to normal, I've been thinking a lot about how I can invest in myself and in my team to become the strongest we can be. And I'm so thankful for the endless resources AAHOA has for me, whether I'm at the office or enjoying a moment of peace and quiet. If you've been thinking about this too, this idea of taking some time to invest in you, I hope you'll join me. I've thought about a few ways, all the things that I can do on my own schedule at my own pace. For example, taking one 20-minute AAHOA webinar every day between now and New Year's Eve. I want to be more informed about sales, and AAHOA has more than 20 classes on that topic, all free and in a format that fits my schedule. Or maybe even having my team take the new AAHOA P&G Professionals Training in Hotel Sanitization and Cleanliness, the latest training certificate offered from the AAHOA Hotel Owners Academy for hotel owners and their staff. As travel resumes, we want our customers to feel confident and comfortable when they choose to stay at our property. This small step will make a big difference. I hope you'll join me this season in choosing your way to invest in yourself because you deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena. Now we'll hear from Bhavik Patel, our Eastern Young Professional Director, with an update on our next generation hoteliers.
Professional hoteliers. I am Bhavik Patel, your AAHOA Young Professional Director, Eastern Division. The people on Capitol Hill and in state legislatures across the country might understand on a theoretical basis what we're going through. Sure, people aren't traveling as much these days, and the hospitality industry must be feeling it. But the message really hits home when we put numbers in front of them. This is where you come in. You may have heard this before, AAHOA asking you to update your property data. It would have been helpful then, but it's absolutely critical now. We need to paint a clear picture of what America's hotel owners are going through. That means the number of hotels, the number of jobs, and the number of tax dollars governments won't see because of the decline in travel. This year, we elected a new Congress, and the fact of the matter is that we will likely need to educate a new class of leaders about the hospitality industry. We'll need to tell them the success of our industry is not only important to our own businesses, but has a ripple effect to our local economies and our country. Plain and simple, the most effective way to hit that point home is with numbers. They're not just going to take our word for it. Dozens of other industries are also clamoring for their attention, but we can prove it if we have the numbers. To those of you that have already provided your property data, thank you. To those of you who have provided some, but not all of your properties, or to those of you who have been meaning to for a while now, it's not too late. This is the perfect time to take a small step that will make a big difference. AAHOA has been investing in technology to make the benefits of membership more accessible wherever you are. My AAHOA, the exclusive member portal, is your one-stop shop. It is where you can update your property information. It's also where you, as a young professional, can indicate that you want to receive the news and information that's most relevant to young professionals. By completing your profile and updating your preferences, you can customize your entire AAHOA experience so it reflects you and the business you run. Last but not least, it's where you can make a PAC contribution today. I know, it seems like a tall order to ask for you to contribute to the AAHOA PAC in the middle of a pandemic. But here's why making a contribution in any amount today is right for you. It's the best decision you'll make all day. PAC funds give AAHOA the power to influence decision-making at the state and federal levels by speaking the language of politics, money. PAC funding allows AAHOA to strengthen its existing political relationships and forge new partnerships with the political power brokers of the future. You would be amazed by how far $1 a day goes. Help AAHOA fight for you. With our industry in trouble, we need strong political relationships now more than ever. We can do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavik. I'm pleased to join our next guest as part of panel to discuss 2020 State of the Lodging Industry and top issues in our region. Please welcome in joining me, Amy Rohr, CAE, President and CEO of Maryland Hotel Lodging Association. Vinay Sharma, Counsel, Vice President, Baywood Hotels. Bhavik Shah, Principal, RE Investment. Eric Terry, President, Virginia Restaurant, Lodging and Travel Association. And myself, Sandeep Patel, your Regional Director and a hotelier in Maryland. And our moderator, Eric Reinerman, Director, State and Local Government Affairs, AAHOA. Thank you for your time today to be on this panel. Eric?
Hey, everybody. How are you? Welcome to the Washington, D.C. Regional. Already been an extremely tumultuous 2020, as we all know. I'm thrilled to be your moderator. As was just said, I'm Eric Reinerman. I'm one of AAHOA's Directors of State and Local Government Affairs, along with Katie, who many of you know. This is her territory, so I think everyone knows Katie pretty well. She's the best. And I know I speak for everyone at the entire association when I say that we're all very excited to have everybody here today. We've got 5 great panelists for you who were just introduced, so I won't spend too much time. We've got Sandeep, Amy, Bhavik, Vinay, and Eric. Everybody's very knowledgeable about the DMV area and the hospitality industry there, and the DMV area is one of my favorite parts of the country. I love it. I'll let them tell themselves a little bit more about themselves when we have a moment, but I wanted to start off by giving everyone a pat on the back and a moment to take a deep breath. I mean, you all deserve it. 2020 has been a whirlwind that really no one saw coming. Just making it this far is, I feel like, truly an accomplishment, and I want to recognize that. You've had to become, on the fly experts on complicated public health issues. You've had to, parse through dense state and local regulations to understand what's legal and what isn't in a brand new, bizarre landscape of a pandemic. Many of you had to deal with the traumatic fallout of having to downsize your businesses, the ongoing liquidity crisis, never before seen, RevPARs. I mean, lower than the financial crisis. Learning how to navigate the federal government's bureaucracy and applying for PPP, the other programs, Main Street lending. These are tall tasks, considering that, while you're doing those things, you've had to actually run your businesses, right, for the sake and well-being of your employees, your customers, and of course, yourselves and your families. So I wanted to thank everyone here who is here tonight and those who weren't able to make it, for everything you've done to help us continue to get through this pandemic. We're not there yet, obviously, but we're getting there. what you've accomplished thus far, it's admirable, it's honorable, and, we're all in your debt. So please know that we at AAHOA are working hard every day for you. And, with that, I want to give my 5 panelists a minute or two to introduce themselves. I know most of you are pretty familiar with each other anyway, but, Sandeep, why don't you start, and Bhavik and Vinay can follow, and then we can go to maybe Amy and Eric from our state associations.
As everybody knows, I'm your director for Washington, D.C. area, and also reside in Maryland. We have, a few hotels, 11 hotels throughout Maryland, of all different brands, and, trying to get through this tough time. So let me throw it back to Bhavik here.
Hi everyone, I'm Bhavik Shah. I'm your AAHOA ambassador from Richmond, Virginia. I've been doing this since I graduated JMU in 2011, and prior to that, grew up in the hospitality business with the family. We have majority of our hotels on the East Coast, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and into other regions as well. But we've been battling COVID crisis everywhere through our limited service, extended stay hotels, and some of our corporate owned hotels.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vinay Sharma. I'm with Baywood Hotels based here in Columbia, Maryland. We have about 100 hotels in the US. I'm counsel and VP at Baywood. I joined about 3 years ago, and I certainly have learned a lot. And you would think that given what I've learned, you'd be able to face everything. But here we are in 2020 with COVID-19 and lacking, I guess, sort of the experience and wherewithal to face the experience to really have a real understanding of how to deal with it. But nonetheless, I've grown to admire the experience of hotel operators like yourselves and people in my company, and people like Amy and Eric, both Erics on this call, who've guided us through the crisis, through their fundamentals and just understanding of the industry.
Good afternoon, everyone. And Vinay, thank you for that. My name is Amy Rohrer. I am president and CEO of the Maryland Hotel Lodging Association. I have been with the organization since 2005, so 5 years. And it's in the last 5 years that I have been serving as president and CEO. This year just has been unimaginable. During my time with the association, I've certainly seen changes, both within our organization and within the industry. And this year just tops them all. But we will get through it together. And I just have always loved being a part of this industry. And I know that we encourage each other, and we are entrepreneurs, and we'll get through it, and we'll be better for it in the end. So.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Eric Terry. I'm the president of the Virginia Restaurant Lodging and Travel Association. I am about to celebrate my 7th year here. Prior to that, I spent 35 plus years in the hotel industry. So I'm one of you in terms of operations and a number of other areas that I'm involved with. And like Bhavik, I reside in Richmond, Virginia, and solidly in a blue state, as you, I'm sure, have noted. We were called pretty early the other night. I think coming out of the industry, I've got a really good understanding and appreciation for what you're going through, having been through 9/11, the Great Recession while I was in the industry. And so, this is probably worse than both of those combined. So, hopefully, we're on the road to recovery here a little bit. Thank you.
All right, great. Well, thanks everybody for being here this afternoon. We really appreciate it. So why don't we just jump right in? We have a number of great member questions that we've compiled. So why don't I figured we'd start with everyone's favorite topic, labor. Even in good times, it's tough to retain top talent. So I wanted to ask Sandeep, Vinay, Bhavik, and then I have a follow-up question for the state associations. But what are you doing to keep your employees kind of engaged and hopeful? And what are the biggest labor issues you're facing right now in light of the pandemic?
Eric, I'll go ahead. And I think the biggest issue we're having, with labor right now is trying to give them the hours that they need to survive. Based on our businesses, the occupancy levels are in 30s and 40%. So, trying to rotate and the new mandates with the housekeeping rules and things of that nature. And it's difficult. I want to provide good living for my staff. And that's the challenge that I feel every day when I go home, that I want to make sure their, paychecks is sufficient enough for them to get through the day and feed their family and housing. So that was number one. And I think number two for me is I want to make sure that I'm providing them with all of the PPE stuff. So then they feel comfortable coming to work, as far as mask, or make sure the hand sanitizers, the gloves are very easily accessible by them. So that was, safety of my staffing is the number one. And I think if we show that to our staff, our employees, I think they'll feel comfortable coming back to work.
Just to echo that, Sandeep, I think that certainly is a problem. One thing is getting people in the door. And then the second thing is getting the employees to feel safe, that they can work at the hotel and they're not going to get sick themselves or expose their own family members. In addition to PPE, I think, yeah, that's right, PPE, sorry. I think it's communication and making sure that the employees are aware of, okay, well, if I have symptoms, what do I do? That there's a process and a procedure in place. I think one thing that has been beneficial over time is that we've gotten a lot more information about symptoms of the disease and understand it a little bit better. And also that testing is much more widely available. I myself got a test recently at a testing facility at Meriwether in Columbia, and I had results within 24 hours for the rapid test, and within 48, I had another result. Both came back negative. So I think communication would be the next step in sort of overcoming the challenges we see on the labor side.
Bobby, do you have anything to add? Or don't
Sorry
feel-
about that. I was on mute.
That's okay.
One of the challenges we're seeing besides line level is like our salaried employees. We don't want to cut their wages, especially if they've been with us for a long time. So we're integrating them into our shift schedules, especially now going in from fall to winter. We do expect occupancy levels to really trickle down. Our sales force, we don't want to get rid of them because when the markets do rebound, we do expect there's going to be demand. So we're keeping them around and integrating them into the schedules, but it's taking away from other front desk associates' hours. So it's been you have to find a balance, but the key employees that have been with us for a long time, we don't want to change up the schedules and dismantle the operations for the future. And then on the line level, we're having problems now, and we had them when we were busy this summer. In the summer, because of unemployment, people didn't want to come to work, and sometimes we didn't have rooms to sell when there was busy nights. And now it's the reverse, that people want jobs and we don't have hours because occupancy levels are trickling down again.
Amy and Eric, what are the big issues we're seeing labor wise in Annapolis and Richmond? What do we think is going to come down the pike as a result, maybe of COVID, but just generally, not necessarily COVID related? What are we looking at labor wise in your respective capitals?
Go ahead, Amy.
Actually, what I was going to update you on a little later, but I think it applies now, is actually an issue we've dealt with at the local level in Baltimore City that we certainly hope is not going to be something that we see at state level. But Unite Here in Baltimore City has pushed 2 labor bills related to retention and recall of employees. We actually saw 2 separate bills. One of them was fine with business in general. The other one, the recall bill, was a really, really bad bill. And, it's something that Unite Here has been pushing in cities all over the country in the middle of this pandemic. And essentially they're pushing union practices on non-union hotels. The union hotels would be excluded from the bill, but you would be required to call back your employees in seniority order if they were laid off at any point during this pandemic. Just to wrap up talking about it, I mean, we got an amendment on the bill that makes it much more palatable for the industry. The Baltimore City Council passed that bill, and it's currently awaiting the mayor's signature. He has about 2 weeks to sign it or veto it, and the association remains very much opposed to it. Even though we did get our amendment in, we are still strongly opposed and working on that bill. And so we're hopeful that we will see a veto on that. But as I said, you know, if we see that at the state level, you know, it's not something that the association would want to have to battle at that level. So we're hoping we can kill it locally.
You know, in Virginia, obviously last year was our first session with a new Democratic control of the House and the Senate. So we had a number of what I would call, negative business bills that were filed, mandatory paid leave. They did pass an increase in the minimum wage, which was scheduled to take effect on January 1st to $9.50. That is now, we were successful at delaying that to not, take effect until May. So we're hopeful that, we can do even further delays on that in the legislative session that starts on January 13th. Things like unemployment taxes, again, because we have depleted so much of the fund on the unemployment, theoretically, the employers' premiums would almost double or triple going into this next year to replenish the fund. And so, that's another area of great concern of ours, for employment is that, you're going to get hit with, again, you've had to lay off people, you've had to, furlough them, and you're going to get hit with these great big taxes at the end of the day. So, we're trying to make sure that we kind of get ahead of that, and they use CARES funding and other things as opposed to, trying to make the employers pay for it.
Yeah, that's interesting. We've seen that around the country too with Unite Here and how aggressive and coordinated they are. They seem to be one of the better coordinated, nationalized unions. I know I've seen similar to what Amy was speaking to. I've seen that in San Francisco. I've seen that, I believe, in Arizona. I think we've seen it in New Jersey too, possibly, but I know there've been other places. And speaking to Eric's point on minimum wage, we also we saw an increase in minimum wage in Florida just now through ballot. It was put on the ballot by the voters, and that just barely passed. So we're definitely seeing movement labor in the labor front pretty much everywhere nationally. I feel like it's a little bit more active lately than it usually is. But so keeping with Amy and Eric for a second, I think this second one is a good one for you. At the state and possibly a local level, what are you seeing as the biggest challenges on the regulatory side? And where, if anywhere at all, has government stepped up to be helpful during the pandemic?
Let me kind of, I can start with that. I mean, we first off, I want to say one thing. It was good to see Senator Warner's picture on your PAC giving and the things you've done. I would tell you this, that Senator Warner, as they were passing the first CARES bill and the PPP, Senator Warner called me numerous times to ask questions, to understand what our industries need. And again, we represent both restaurants and hotels and whatnot. And so I want to reinforce what you guys said about the PAC and how important it is, because, his leadership on that, and he's a businessman. That's nice. We don't always have, democratic leadership that comes from business. And so it's good to have somebody like that. But I think that's important. Now, at a state level, probably the most negative thing that we've had happen through the pandemic is that the Department of Labor and Industry has passed a series of regulations which were largely union written, which are going to be fairly difficult to comply with. That has been implemented. There's not been a lot of enforcement on that as of yet, but quite frankly, we're very concerned about it. We've expressed our opposition to many of those things, as have many industries. And so I think as those get implemented and enforced, it's going to be a fairly difficult time, I think, for us to deal with what happens to businesses and what they're faced with, because it's going to be a difficult period of recovery, as we all know. And if you start implementing those sort of negative labor and industry standards, you just make it that much harder.
Right.
I would add to that, that some of our concerns just surround what, you know, the Maryland General Assembly is going to look like in 2021. You know, we're dealing with a virtual session, and we've experienced the virtual hearings with some of the local bills that we've been dealing with this year. And it's just a difficult environment to, you know, be a part of. You know, the legislation is moving forward. As it was previously said, you know, we're facing Unite Here in the state that is extremely well organized, but you know, advocacy has always happened largely behind the scenes, and it is continuing to happen behind the scenes. But it's just a much more challenging way to get things done. You know, here in Maryland, we are part of a larger Maryland Business Coalition. And so, you know, I know that we as an industry and as an association are not alone in sharing concerns about, you know, transparency and opportunity for public input as, you know, the General Assembly here in our state reconvenes in January.
Sure, sure. Okay, good to know. So I guess the next question I've been parsing through them. I think this is a good one for the hotel owner. So Sandeep, Bhavik, Vinay, shifting to banking and financing for a second. Have any of you restructured loans? Are your lenders working with you in terms of payments, deferrals, et cetera? And what are your biggest needs on the lending side? So, you know, I know that's kind of three big questions in a row, but, you know, any thoughts on banking, refinancing? Do you expect to see foreclosures in your areas? What are your thoughts on that?
Eric, I hope we don't see any foreclosure. I think we need a big relief. I mean, there's a ton of money sitting on Main Street lending program, which we're not qualified for. And I wish Treasury, you know, department would go ahead and figure it out where some of our small businesses can access that fund. I think I heard somewhere around $600 million that is just sitting there and it's not touchable because apparently it goes on EBITDA. And you know, our business is more of an asset heavy type of business, and we need to make sure we can pay the mortgage. As far as the banks are concerned, you know, our local relationship banks, they've been great. You know, they've been great giving us the 6 months forbearance pretty much. And I hope that the next round, the feds will ease up a little bit more on them as far as, you know, non-payment borrowers. So that way, you know, they can ease those things back to us. I think we're going to need another 6 months of those relief from the banks. So my local relation bankers have been, you know, very good to us in helping us out, you know, but far as, I mean, we do have CMBS loans as well, and that's a challenge. That's another animal that, you know, that we're going to have a really difficult time. And I know AAHOA, you know, along with a lot of the other associations, been trying to get some relief from, you know, the feds to restructure CMBS where we can get some forbearance. I mean, I saw today in the news that I think close to 30% of CMBS loans are, you know, have, you know, been late on the payments now. And some encouraging news on that they are giving some forbearance now. I've been working with one of my CMBS lenders for last couple of months, you know, and they're saying they're going to work with me, and I hope they work with me, and we'll see how that goes. But I think it's a challenge, and you know, we're stuck in this rut right now with this election. And as soon as we get through this and we have a decisive president, hopefully they'll hear us. And again, you know, AAHOA PAC Fund, we do a lot of things behind the scenes so we can get this, you know, elected officers to listen to us, like our young hotelier said earlier, that, you know, now we got a whole new class of Congress people that we got to, you know, educate on our hotel business. And it's a challenge every 2 years. And I encourage our members to, you know, help us raise some PAC fund so we can fight on their behalf at the state level and at the federal level.
Yeah, just very quickly to address Main Street lending. You know, I know that Chirag and Jordan and me to a lesser extent are working with Treasury to try to ease the restrictions that are holding us back from accessing those funds. I mean, very frustrating. It was clearly the intent of Congress to, you know, help small businesses when they decided to create Main Street Lending. And the fact that we're not qualifying is incredibly frustrating. I think they get it, but it's a question of moving the, the Leviathan, the bureaucracy. So we'll see, but not to interrupt, Bhavik, Vinay, what are you seeing banking and financing? Any thoughts?
Sure, yeah. Like Sandeep Bhai said, the conventional lenders or local relationship lenders have been very friendly to work with. They have definitely increased their reporting requirements from star reports to monthly financial statements. But when it comes down to forbearing, deferring loans, they have been very friendly. Definitely the first 90 days was very easy to get. Some of our lenders and us got creative where they lowered our interest rate down for the remainder of our loan, let's say 5 years or 3 years, but we continued paying interest only for the next 90 days. And then we're reevaluating everything and getting deferrals or getting creative for the next 90 days here for this winter. And we don't have any CMBS loans, so we don't have to deal with any of that. And for renovation funding, some of our lenders had signed up. We were in middle of renovations where they try to freeze up, but since they had already started charging us interest, it's their obligation to complete the renovation funding. So we're going back and forth with one of our lenders on that, but we're going to finish all our renovations that we have in the pipeline.
Gotcha.
Just to add, I think that I certainly echo that the first 90 days of forbearance or so was relatively easy to get. But we didn't give up where lenders said, no, we can't do beyond 90 days. We, like Bhavik was saying, we were trying to be creative. Let's do interest only. Let's reduce the interest rate. Let's suspend FF&E reserve requirements. Another big thing I think to look out for too, in the various modification documents that the banks throw out, is make sure that they're suspending the non-monetary default items that are in the loan documents. For example, suspending DSCR tests or pushing it out 6 months, just so that we're out here trying to survive. We're paying our property tax, we're paying our insurance, we're in many cases paying full P&I or partial or just I. But it would be helpful for the banks to do their part, or maybe it's more their responsibility to do their part and make sure they're not going to dock us for non-monetary default.
Sure. Well, it's good to hear that, some of the forbearances, or at least they're being flexible on those, because I've been hearing different things depending on what part of the country and who I'm speaking to. But so next question, what strategic steps are you taking to forecast revenues for the remainder of this year and for next year? And what steps are you taking to sort of reduce expenses and make each dollar stretch a little further?
Well, I think, budgeting is thrown out the window. I have no, we will budget based on, what we did last year. For the second half of 2021, I think we can kind of forecast it closer to maybe 2018 numbers or even last year's numbers. But, the first 6 months, it's going to be all based on vaccine and what COVID takes place, as, we are in the second round of this virus surges. So, I mean, we're budgeting, we'll do the best we can, with our GMs to project, but it's just, I think we're in a different world, as far as I'm concerned, as far as budgeting. It's going to be very difficult. The numbers will meet the pen somehow, but it's not going to be accurate, and we'll do the best we can. And as far as cutting cost, I mean, we have done is multitask some of our staff, cross-train them in a different departments. So then we're able to take advantage, run the hotel with the lower occupancy with a smaller amount of staff that we can to save the labor. I think that's going to be also, the housekeeping standards, we're trying to work with that, where a lot of the guests doesn't want us to go in, and that's saving some labor money. I mean, maintenance people are cross-trained to do the front desk as well. And, some of these other deep clean or PM has to be put aside. So overall, I think cross-training your employees in a different departments definitely will help us save some labor. And the breakfast cost, I think a lot of brands, I mean, we're trying to work with the brands to give us some break on the breakfast cost and the housekeeping standards, and a lot of the PIP needs to stop too. And the fees, that are unnecessary fees that they're, keep charging us. So we want to work on that, so that way we can, save our business, not just run it. I think banks needs to work with us. Our labor needs to work with us. Our suppliers needs to work with us. because this could go on for another 6 to 9 months. And, we as a owner of the hotels, we want to survive. So we'll do anything we can to survive through this, and every department, everybody needs to participate in our cost saving.
It's funny how breakfast always comes up. No matter what, breakfast is always such a hot button issue.
Yeah, breakfast is a big cost for us.
For sure.
So yeah, I think it's all speculation when you are forecasting right now, especially for the winter months, down at least 50% compared to what we had on the books last year, maybe even more. And it might be 50% for rest of next year too. We don't know until there's a vaccine, and some of it gets down to, it's all market driven too. Like we have a hotel close to Busch Gardens. I don't even think we are going to do what we did last year, like 25% of what we did in 2019 this year. And I don't know what's going to happen next year either. It gets down to the government agencies and if they let the park reopen. Now, some hotels, our extended stay hotels, are weathering the storm better, and they might do 85% of what we did last year, or even close to 90%. So it makes it a lot easier to be more precise and accurate when it comes to budgeting. And if there's project-based business that our sales and marketing team is focusing on getting into our hotels. In terms of economy segment hotels, they have weathered the storm a lot better. So like our Red Roof Inns or Days Inns or Motel 6s, it's been very easy to run them very tight. A lot of relief from franchise fees. Same thing with Quality Inns. Some of them have eliminated breakfast completely, but in some of our hotels that we had full continental breakfast, we're still giving like a wrap banana or wrap products, to-go bags for our customers. Like we said, we're using our salaried employees part-time at the desk doing shifts now. If it gets really bad, like it did in April, we might put them all on the desk for 40 hours, but we don't want to eliminate them from our team.
Right.
We're working with our vendors, negotiating with them, our cable vendors and trash vendors. Some of them gave us 90 days complimentary over a period of time, or 90 days 50% off, or 180 days 50% off. We're just going through and grinding down every single expense on our ledger and seeing where we can save money. Elevator companies, landscaping companies, whatever it is, housekeeping, supplies. So a lot of our hotels are now taking more extended stay business, even if it's a Courtyard Marriott. It's unfortunate, but we're running special extended stay rates, competing with hotels that we wouldn't have competed with as long as the business is blue collar, because we know that corporate business is not going to return anytime here in the near future. So it's been very interesting, and it'll be like that here for the next 6 months to a year.
I think Bhavik and Sandeep hit the issues on with the nail on the head. One thing in terms of forecasting that's helped is our sales teams. We've relied on them more than we probably ever have and ever will in the crisis, because they've done such a good job of finding those unique sources of business and going out there, driving, knocking on doors if they can, and if it's safe, obviously making phone calls. But in terms of business that was lost this year, obviously in this area, DC, Maryland, Virginia, we're talking about school groups that could not come in the summertime are rebooking for next summer. Obviously, who knows whether they'll actually be able to visit or not, but that does help us in saying that, hey, we did lose this amount of business this year. However, we have already rebooked it for the following year. And that does help us approach our lenders and say, hey, look, going back to the previous conversation, we're asking for help now, but we're really looking forward to when this thing ends and we can open back up.
Right.
Eric, if I may, some of our members might want to hear the grant that is being launched in state of Virginia and Maryland. And we have a great resource here on our panel that they can help our members, find out a little bit more about these grants that the states are offering. So maybe Eric and Amy could help.
Yeah, sure. Let me talk about the Rebuild Virginia program was launched a few months ago, and it was very restrictive in terms of the amounts and the criteria. If you had received PPP and whatnot, you couldn't apply. The governor relaunched that last week and opened it up considerably more. Grants of up to $100,000 and $10 million revenue caps and 250 employees. but they also removed all of the requirements that would knock you out if you had received an EIDL or a PPP or other sort of things. So I'd strongly encourage people to take a look at that program and apply right away. I mean, it's a limited amount of funds. It's, they put an additional $30 million into it last week. And so, I think there's real opportunity there for the hotel industry to apply for those and get some of those loan or grants, excuse me, no, they're not a loan. So, those could make a real difference going into this winter months to, be able to pick up a grant that, really doesn't have any strings attached necessarily. And, again, the criteria I think is pretty easy, with, your revenue losses and whatnot. So again, it's called Rebuild Virginia, and you'll see it on the governor's website.
Great.
And
Good info. Yeah, go ahead, Amy. Sorry.
no, that's okay. Here in Maryland, it was about 2 weeks ago that Governor Hogan made a big announcement about an additional $250 million that he was taking out of the rainy day fund and was, giving it out to small business in a variety of different ways. He, as part of that announcement, he had a pot that was $50 million that was dedicated just to restaurants. I have to say, as I have taken the deep dive into what has been put out there here in Maryland, a lot of what we've seen has not necessarily been all that beneficial for hotels. I would plan to take a look at what they have in Virginia and hope that we might be able to accomplish something like that here in Maryland. But, there are some grants out there. There are some loans out there that you may be able to take advantage of. There's also a lot of money that has been, CARES Act funding that has been distributed to the counties to then dole out here in Maryland. And so I would encourage all of you to make sure you're not just looking at what the state has to offer, but also make sure you are staying aware of whatever your county is pushing out. For me, it creates a lot of confusion here. But the counties are under pressure to spend that money before the end of the year. It's $240 million that the counties still have. And if they don't spend that money or give it out before the end of the year, they have to give it back to the federal government. So I would imagine that we're going to see more and more counties also, giving out relief funds as the year goes on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Katie and I try to push out whatever we get from our state association to whatever we come across that relates to CARES Act, but it's been a fairly opaque process thus far and also frustrating. But I didn't know they had 240 million and those types of numbers just lying around in a bank account waiting to be dispersed back to the federal government. That's scary. Hopefully we can put that to good use, So I liked this question a lot. For everybody, what's your biggest worry for the remainder of 2020? But then I would also ask all of you to follow that up with what gives you the most hope for 2021, understanding that, of course, we're in the middle of a pandemic, the length of which is unknown, and we still have somewhat of probably a divided government. It looks like Biden will probably eke it out, and it looks like the GOP will retain control of the Senate. So we're going to have divided government, and there's just a lot of things up in the air. But what's your biggest worry for 2020, and what gives you the most hope for 2021?
This is Vinay. I'll jump in. From a legal perspective, I think my biggest worry is lawsuits and litigation. Obviously, like we've talked about, we had to get lean and we had to cut a lot of employees. And that, in one hand, gives us some relief in that it reduces our labor expense, but it creates exposure in that people can file lawsuits for wrongful termination, EEOC complaints, and so on and so forth. So it's very important that we all make sure that we're documenting our employee files, we're making sure we have the appropriate insurance coverages, and we're providing our attorneys with the correct information and the accurate information to defend us in our claims. On the other hand, there's also the gross negligence standard for employees as it relates to for employers as it relates to employee safety in the workplace related to COVID. I believe there's one lawsuit that Purdue Farms is facing related to this. But again, just making sure, who knows what grossly negligent means in the COVID context, but we're learning, and I make sure that we have those employee procedures and practices in place, that we're providing PPE, that we're screening our employees as they're coming in with temperature checks, that we're making sure that people who have symptoms are quarantining or are reporting it to work and getting the help that they need. That's the negative side. On the positive, I just think that there's a tremendous amount of pent up people ready to travel, whether it's for work, whether it's for fun or pleasure. I think that the one silver lining, at least from that perspective in this crisis, is that people want to get out there and they want to do the things that they couldn't do. It's a friendly reminder for that. And I just think that travel is going to come roaring back as soon as we have the opportunity to safely do it.
I think so too. Good points.
Eric, I think what worries me the remaining of the year, this uncertainty in our environment in DC worries me. And the other worry is, what if we have a shutdown again, which I think one of the Virginia counties is going to vote today, I believe, on reducing their capacity to 25% for the restaurants and closing the liquor outlets to earlier. I think the vote's going on today. I don't remember the county, but it's in one of the Northern Virginia county. So I'm worried that the government, with the shift in power, maybe they will go back and start shutting us down. And if they start shutting us down, then that will, just add to our frustration in every possible way. For 2021, I hope we find vaccine and come up with solution like Vinay said. I think people are anxious to travel and it's going to come roaring, and we'll have to be ready for that. And that's the optimistic way of looking at it. Soon as the people will feel safe to travel, I think our industry will roar back like never before. Okay.
Some of my concerns, I think Vinay and Sandeep handled it really well from the legal perspective and political perspective, but concerns about winter occupancy levels. How bad will it get? Will it get as bad as April, or like how bad will the cash burn get? Because none of us know like what is December, January, and February going to look like. Usually they're already pretty weak months in a lot of our markets, college markets where students go home, or people aren't traveling or are with family already, and then with cases numbers spiking. How bad will it get this winter? And then going into the future, like real estate taxes, personal property taxes, cost of insurance, how will this be an impact? I haven't seen any help. I don't know if any of the other panelists have, but all our real estate tax bills are going to be due December 5th or November 15th or December 15th based on the counties. We haven't seen any concessions from that front, but what is the future going to look like? Are they going to work with us in 2021, or is it still going to be the same cost? Because fundamentally the valuations have gone down. If you look at the EBITDA approach, hotels don't have strong EBITDA, that's for sure, if any. And so those are some of my major concerns going into 2021 and even for this winter.
Yeah, one of mine would definitely be COVID liability. We're all thinking about it. I think that it depends on the state you're in, if it's blue or red, really. You know what I mean? I think that Mitch has made it clear that it's one of his main priorities in the Senate. It's going to be harder to get that through the House at the federal level. But in Florida, I know that there's already bills that will pass. In California, it'll probably be the opposite. I don't know what we're seeing with COVID liability from Amy and Eric's perspective. I'd like to hear that, but I have a feeling that it's probably not great news in those states, but you guys are the experts.
We are working with the business coalition that I mentioned here in Maryland to have a bill ready to be introduced. But as you said, we're a very blue state here in Maryland, and it will be a heavy lift. So we know that going in, but we also know that it won't cost the state a dime. And we'll be on the defense going into session, knowing that the budget shortfalls are just, they're there, and they will be looking to business to recoup some of that money. And so maybe they'll give us the liability protections in exchange.
Yeah, I mean, similarly, we're pushing for that as we are with all the chambers and everybody else. But as you know, it doesn't have as much teeth to it as you'd like it to, unless we get some federal relief on this issue. So, I think we'll see some effort there, but I don't know that it's going to have a real push. Eric, just real quickly, going back to the original question, and what are you concerned about?
Yeah.
As some of you probably know, Virginia has off-year elections, which means we have these elections next year, which I really just can't wait for. I mean, so excited to go through this again. But our governor is up next year. Our governor is termed out in one term, and our House members are up for election. And so that's going to lead to a somewhat chaotic general session that starts January 13th. So that's one big concern that I have. The positive is, I would tell you that our region of like Hampton Roads and Virginia Beach in that area was one of the highest occupancy areas in the United States. And I just got the September STAR report down, and quite frankly, it's holding itself. And so I'm somewhat optimistic that that's going to expand a little bit as we have so much government military business in the state, and vacationers and whatnot. And I think, as Vinay said, I think people want to travel. And so I think if there is a vaccine and they're feeling comfortable with it, I mean, even without a vaccine this summer, we saw really good numbers down in Virginia Beach and Norfolk in that area. So I'm pretty optimistic about how quickly that may recover. I don't know about corporate business and others, but we might see a nice bump.
Right. Well, that's good to hear, and it's good to end it on a positive note. I'm being told that we are out of time, so I had 3 other questions I really wanted to get to, but everyone had a lot of great information, so I really appreciate everyone being here. And I guess that's it. Always, any members listening or anyone on the panel, if I can help anybody in any way, please email me, Eric@AAHOA, ERIC@AAHOA.com. And thanks everyone for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Eric, for moderating this session, and everybody have a great evening. We do have another session at 5 o'clock from our officer right now, starting at 5. Please join there.
Great. Thank you, everybody. See you soon.